It's the 21st of October and it's time for the 21st film in my 31 Horrors of Mike. That was a bit of a tongue twister. So today's movie review is going to be for the 1968 classic Rosemary's Baby. Now, this isn't going to be an in-depth review, and I'm actually going to hardly touch on the plot at all because I try to not have spoilers in my 31 Horrors of Mike, and if you haven't seen Rosemary's Baby, it is best going into it blind. It is one of these films, kind of like Planet of the Apes, where even if you haven't seen the film, you probably already know the ending, because it's one of these things that's sort of seeped into pop culture, but I still don't want to ruin it for anyone. That being said, I also intend on doing a Polanski series at some point where I review my favourite films of his, and I'll be doing a in-depth review, probably half an hour long, of Rosemary's Baby anyway, so which will be spoiler ridden, so you can look forward to that if you can listen to me for that amount of time. Anyway, so it was released in 1968. It was based on a book which was released the previous year by Ira Levin, and it's directed by Roman Polanski. It's the second film in Polanski's Apartment trilogy, which the first film was Repulsion, we have Rosemary's Baby, then we have later on he does The Tenant, and those films are not connected in terms of being actual sequels to one another. It's more that they explore similar themes, which is people's isolation and interaction within a sort of apartment situation, I suppose you would say. So there are a lot of things which connect the films, but they're not actually sequels to one another or anything like that. They are standalone films. It stars Mia Farrow and John Cassavetes. Excuse me, I've still got this cold. They are a young couple who move into this gothic apartment complex in New York, and they are trying to establish themselves like most young couples are. John Cassavetes is a struggling actor. He's trying to establish himself for that, and Rosemary, played by Mia Farrow, is attempting to really find her footing in terms of just living in that area. In a lot of ways, she's trying to get to know the other residents in the apartment complex, and she does get to know them, but she feels like there's something off with them. There's something not quite right. She hears things through the walls. There's a suicide at some point, and there's, shall we say, a visitation at night by something, and this all leads to this building idea of paranoia, people living close to each other, on top of one another, what's going on through the wall, and also throughout the film, although the ending does give you a pretty solid conclusion as to what's happened, unlike The Tenant, when you're watching the film, you are going along with that mystery, and you are going along with this idea of you know, I'm listening to my neighbour, but are they really up to anything? Are they? Is that just paranoia, or is there something sinister going on just a foot away? It's widely regarded as one of the best horror films ever made. I think that it is absolutely. The tension in the film, and there's almost a sort of conspiracy theorist feeling to the film as well, or persecution rather is probably the better term, where Rosemary feels like she's being persecuted from people around her. But again, it's, you know, is it her paranoia? Is it all in her mind, or is there some sort of conspiracy against her? Performances are great. The star of the show, though, really is Polanski himself. His direction is just wonderful. It creates this strange, eerie, skewed feeling, which is uncomfortable, especially for people that have lived in apartment complexes. You know, it's a familiar surrounding, but he makes it both familiar and uncanny, weird, strange, and that's really one of Polanski's strengths. It's a great film. I can't really say much more about it without spoiling it, so definitely go and check that out if you haven't already. You probably have watched it, but believe me, as compared to films like The Exorcist and The Shining, there are a lot of fans of horror that haven't even watched this film. So although it is a popular film, I mean, I'm not saying that it isn't, you know, but compared to things like The Exorcist and The Shining. It's not at that level of popularity, but it's certainly at that level of quality as a film, in my opinion. There was a sequel made at some point, a television sequel. I haven't watched it. I've heard it's absolutely awful, and they were talking about a remake at some point, but thankfully I've not heard anything about that. I mean, that's one of these films where there's absolutely no point in remaking it. There's none. The story's told perfectly, and unlike unlike a film like The Sixth Sense, where I felt that when there's the reveal of what's really going on at the end of the film, that then it's kind of like a one-shot deal. You don't really feel like going back to that movie time and time again. Rosemary's Baby's different. It's of such a high quality, and that world is so intriguing that every time you watch it, even though you know the ending, you're kind of going along with this mystery and from Rosemary's point of view. The doctor character in it is excellent, and especially the elderly neighbours are really great. All smiles, caring, loving, but there's something sinister just under the skin. So that's Rosemary's Baby, 1968. Go and watch that. Repulsion was requested, but I was going to do Rosemary's Baby first. That didn't sound right. I was going to review Rosemary's Baby first, but so I did do that, but Repulsion has been requested, so I don't know if I can fit that in the last 10 film reviews that I'm going to do. 2 Polanski films in the final 10. There's a lot of controversy about Polanski because of, obviously, his life is full of tragedy. Some of it terribly brought about by the actions of others, no fault of his own, but also he has brought much of the negativity on himself as well. Just as a little footnote, I think you can still really enjoy an artist's work and still believe that he should have probably faced justice, which he hasn't really done. So anyway, that's my feeling on that, if anybody cares. So, Rosemary's Baby, fantastic film. Go check it out. Facebook page, Tumblr down below, and I'll be back tomorrow with another film review. Bye for now.